Fair warning, this video does contain spoilers for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Hey everyone, MajorCraft here, welcome back to another episode. And yes, it's finally here, the Fnaf movie is officially out. And it came out like 3 days ago, about now, by the time I'm recording this. But anyways, I got to see it. I'm going to give my personal opinion on a lot of these things and just how I felt about the movie. In this video I do mention there will be massive spoilers towards the movie, so if you don't want to get spoiled, maybe check out a different video of mine or click off the video right now. So with all that out of the way, I'm going to first discuss on how they did human characters and how the actors did for them. So first off, let me get this right out of the way. All the actors did extremely good with this movie, and I feel like they definitely chose the right roles for this movie, and they did a really good job with what they were given. And also, I feel like Vanessa, she could have been written a bit better. Her character was kind of all over the place in the movie. Because one scene she's like perfectly fine building a fort with the animatronics, then the next scene she's like, don't bring Abby back again. So I feel like they could have written her character like a bit better. We could have ended up with something a bit better. I feel like William Afton should have appeared in the movie a lot more instead of like the beginning and end. Up next we have the animatronics. Now personally I think the animatronics turned out great. The movement was pretty cool and I enjoyed all the facial movements they made. There were a few scenes with the animatronics where it's like, what the heck? But all in all they turned out extremely good, and it was interesting to see how we got to see like Ella in like a Springlock suit form, along with Sparky finally getting an animatronic form, canonically with some kind of Fnaf lore or storyline or whatever, along with Purple Freddy and that like torturous machine thing, which was crazy. And even then, like, I feel like they could have used Golden Freddy a bit more. He was so underused in the movie. He was in like 3 scenes. I expected him to play maybe like just a tiny bit of a bigger role. So I feel like they could have done just a bit more with Golden Freddy. But the Spring Bonnie suit turned out fantastic. It's basically how I depicted, like how I thought the Spring Bonnie suit looked. And it delivered. It was pretty cool to see the spring locks and everything in action and to see them go off. So personally, I thought it was fantastic. The next thing I want to talk about is the set design. Now the set design was amazing. Everything was like all interconnected and everything, and it was pretty sick to see different scenes taking place, kind of like all interjunctioning. You know, like in the one scene with Carl in the kitchen, you could see Chica walking past like with the fan and everything, which is like super cool to see. But all in all, I think the set design was pretty interesting. I feel like it gave a new take on the building, so it wasn't just the same location we've seen so long ago, but it also gave a bit of a twist to it. Now we come to the story. Now this is probably going to be the longest section because there was so much to take away from this. But I'm just going to be going through if they paced it well, if they explained it well, and just how it worked out in total. So the first 3 nights I'm going to kind of wrap up in just one big section. The first 2 nights were really fast paced. It was just Mike sleeping, then waking up, then the occasional like visitor or like info dump. But that was really about it for night 2. I feel like they could have gone into more like action and like maybe have a bit more movement than just Foxy on night 2. But I feel like overall, like, it starts to set the tone for the later night, because all of this is like building up to night 5. Night 5 is like the big thing, which I really enjoyed. Night 3 was interesting because it kind of followed the same formula, except that Abby was in the building. So the night ends with Abby saying goodbye to the animatronics. If you watch the movie, you kind of know where that goes. So it was interesting because we get to see the animatronics kind of like moving around and interacting for the first time. So all in all, I feel like the night sets the tone good for like what they're capable of, like with controlling the animatronics. Night 4, they definitely went a bit more on the like family friendly side with it because they built a gosh darn fort and Bonnie falls over, and I was just watching that scene and thinking, what movie am I watching? It's not a bad scene, it was a pretty interesting one, but I still think it was a bit out there with it. But it does encapsulate how these animatronics are possessed by children, and how they just want to play and everything. Like, later down the line, Vanessa explains how they don't want to hurt anyone, but Afton's just controlling them. So all in all, I feel like night 4 was pretty interesting. We got to get a more, like, quote-unquote in-depth explanation of Springlocks. It was a quick 2-minute scene, so I feel like they could have gone into a bit more depth on it, but I feel like they covered it enough to understand. Then finally, night 5, where all things go down, because Golden Freddy brings Abby to the pizzeria. Then they do a performance, then Chica takes Abby backstage to put her in the Ella Springlock suit. Mike control shocks animatronics, including the cupcake. Abby hides in the ball pit, gets saved by Vanessa, then Spring Bonnie appears, and all heck breaks loose, because they finally figure out, it was kind of like the fourth closet, where they were revealed that, like, Spring Bonnie was actually Afton, which is the man who killed them. Which then they turn on him, the cupcake attacks and causes the spring locks to go off. That was an awesome scene. It wasn't depicted as well as I wanted it to be, but the Springlock scene, I'll take it. I will take that scene. We got at least a Springlock scene. I am happy with that. But yeah, eventually he gets dragged away, and that's basically it. We get to see, the last we see of Afton in the movie is presumably Cassidy closing the door and locking him away. So overall, during the day sections, I feel like they give enough story to add to the night sections, but I just feel like the first couple nights could have been paced a bit better. And also I feel like, because since I'm like a huge Fnaf fan, I dive into the lore a lot and everything, it was easy for me to understand. I feel like for newcomers it will be a bit difficult to understand, but you just kind of have to have at least some knowledge on the story, not like learning the entirety of it, just knowing about who William Afton is, like why are these kids dead and everything, like stuff like that, just to kind of have a brief understanding. And lastly, was it worth the wait? Personally, for me, yes, it was worth the wait. Sure, it's not the most perfect movie, it's kind of far from it, but it was a great movie, and I really enjoy it, and I recommend you go watch it. Even if it is on Peacock, I still recommend you give this movie a chance. It is really good, and personally, I think it delivers on what it was sent to do, except for the killer animatronics part that was only really implied on night 5 and a scene in between nights. But other than that, I thought it was a good movie, and there's a lot they can improve on, but I really enjoyed it. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up my thoughts for the FNAF movie. Let me know what you think about the movie. Did you like it? Did you hate it? If so, why or why not? Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for me, so I'll see you all in the next one.